Question 1. Scenario-based question Samantha has been working with. A dog, Max, who exhibits fear-based aggression when encountering new people. Max was previously abused and has a history of fear reactions in unfamiliar situations. Samantha has been using a desensitization protocol, gradually exposing Max to strangers in a controlled manner, rewarding calm behavior. However, during the last session, Max became overwhelmed, lunging at a guest. Should Samantha do next to address the situation and continue Max's training? A. Continue desensitizing Max by exposing him to strangers more frequently to desensitize him faster. B. Increase the intensity of the rewards to distract Max and prevent future aggressive outbursts. C. Review the training session and lower the intensity of the exposure using more gradual steps to reduce Max's anxiety. D. Use corrective punishment to immediately stop Max's aggressive behavior and discourage future aggression. Answer. C. Review the training session and lower the intensity of the exposure using more gradual steps to reduce Max's anxiety. Explanation. In cases of fear-based aggression, desensitization should be approached with gradual steps to avoid overwhelming the dog. Max's reaction of lunging suggests the exposure level was too intense for him. The appropriate course of action is to reduce the intensity of the exposure and make the training sessions more reinforcing calm behavior at each step. This aligns with ethical and humane behavior modification practices and the least intrusive, minimally aversive Lima principle. The option of using corrective punishment, option D, is not in line with ethical training practices and may cause further harm or increase fear and aggression. Question 2. Which of the following principles is best described as reinforcing a behavior by rewarding it only after a set number of responses, such as a dog sitting 5 times before receiving a treat? A. Variable interval schedule. B. Fixed ratio schedule. C. Variable ratio schedule. D. Fixed interval schedule. Answer. B. Fixed ratio schedule. Explanation. A fixed ratio schedule of reinforcement involves providing a reward after a specific number of responses. In this scenario, the dog must sit 5 times before receiving a treat. This method reinforces the behavior consistently after a set number of occurrences, which often leads to rapid learning of the behavior. Other schedules like variable ratio option C and fixed interval option D differ in how the reinforcement is delivered, either based on variable responses or a set period of time, which would not be as effective for shaping a specific behavior in this case. Question 3. Which of the following is a primary indicator that a dog may be showing signs of stress or fear during a training session? A. Wagging the tail vigorously while facing forward. B. Ears forward and eyes bright, exhibiting enthusiasm. C. Licking the lips or yawning frequently during the interaction. D. Playful barking and jumping up excitedly. Answer. C. Licking the lips or yawning frequently during the interaction. Explanation. Licking the lips and yawning are both calming signals that dogs often use when they feel stressed or anxious. These behaviors are often a sign of discomfort in stressful situations, including during training. Understanding canine body language is crucial in recognizing when a dog is overwhelmed or frightened, while wagging the tail or jumping could indicate excitement or happiness. They can also occur in stressful situations if the dog is unsure. The key is to observe these signs in context. If the dog is displaying other signs of anxiety, such as tucked tail or avoiding eye contact, these behaviors should be noted as stress indicators. Question 4. You are working with a dog, Bella, who has developed a behavior of barking excessively when left alone. Bella's owner has already consulted with a veterinarian and no medical issues have been found. After a few weeks of training, Bella's barking has not improved. The owner reports that Bella appears more anxious during the training sessions. What is the most effective next step in addressing Bella's behavior? A. Increase the duration of Bella's solo training sessions to teach her to tolerate being alone for longer periods. B. Use a harsh verbal reprimand every time Bella starts barking to discourage the behavior. C. Implement a more gradual desensitization plan, combining it with positive reinforcement for calm behavior when alone. D. Introduce a shock collar to stop the barking immediately as the behavior is becoming more problematic. Answer. C. Implement a more gradual desensitization plan, combining it with positive reinforcement for calm behavior when alone. Explanation. Bella's excessive barking when left alone is likely a result of separation anxiety, which requires carefully managed desensitization protocol. Gradual exposure to being alone paired with positive reinforcement for calm behavior is essential to reducing anxiety and addressing the root cause of the behavior. Increasing the length of time Bella is left alone without gradual steps, option A, might worsen her anxiety. Harsh reprimands, option B, and shock collars, option D, can increase fear and anxiety, making the situation worse. Positive reinforcement, in combination with desensitization, follows the principles of humane and effective training practices. Question 5. Which of the following describes a situation in which a dog is likely to show extinction of a behavior after receiving no reinforcement for repeated attempts? A dog continues barking at the door even after the owner stops answering the doorbell, leading to decreased barking over time. B. A dog stops fetching a ball when it is consistently thrown, but the owner begins using a different ball each time. C. A dog receives a treat every time it sits on command, and it begins to sit more frequently as a result. D. A dog starts performing tricks more often after receiving praise intermittently each trick. Answer A. A dog continues barking at the door even after the owner stops answering the doorbell, leading to decreased barking over time. Explanation: extinction occurs when a behavior that was previously reinforced no longer produces a reinforcing consequence. In this case, the dog's barking at the door was previously reinforced by the owner's response answering the doorbell, but when the reinforcement is removed, the owner stops answering, the dog's barking will eventually decrease as the behavior is no longer rewarded. This process of unreinforced behavior gradually dying out is key principle in operant conditioning. The other options describe different processes, such as reinforcement or the introduction of new variable, but they do not directly illustrate the process of extinction. Question 6. You are training a dog, Max, to walk calmly on a leash without pulling. When Max pulls, you stop walking until he returns to a loose leash. However, Max has started pulling harder and more frequently, and his owner is becoming frustrated. What is the most likely reason Max's behavior is worsening, and how should you modify the training? A. The behavior is worsening because Max has learned that pulling results in no movement, and he is becoming more frustrated. The training should be modified by using positive reinforcement when Max maintains a loose leash rather than only reacting to the pulling behavior. B. Max's pulling is worsening because the owner has been inconsistent with stopping and starting the walk. The training should involve using a prong collar to create an immediate consequence. Pulling. C. Max is likely feeling anxiety because the training sessions are too long. Reducing the length of training sessions and incorporating more physical exercise before training would help solve the issue. D. The problem is that Max is receiving too many treats, which makes him more excited and likely to pull harder. The training should reduce the number of treats given during walks. Answer A. The behavior is worsening because Max has learned that pulling results in no movement and he is becoming more frustrated. The training should be modified by using positive reinforcement when Max maintains a loose leash rather than only reacting to the pulling behavior. Explanation: Max's behavior is worsening because he has learned that pulling results in no forward movement, which can increase frustration and exacerbate the pulling behavior. The approach is to reinforce the desired behavior, loose leash walking, with positive reinforcement. By rewarding Max for walking calmly, he will be more likely to repeat this behavior. The other options, using prong collar, reducing training length, and limiting treats, do not address the root cause of the behavior and may lead to frustration or less effective training. Question 7. A dog trainer is teaching a dog to stay in a down position for increasing durations. The dog seems to understand the concept and remains in the position for a short time, but begins to get up after a longer duration, even though the trainer is using positive reinforcement when the dog stays in place. What principle of operant conditioning best explains the dog's behavior? A. The dog is experiencing a learned helplessness response and is not able to stay in the down position for long durations. B. The dog is showing signs of extinction as the trainer's reinforcement is becoming less effective over time. C. The behavior is undergoing spontaneous recovery as the dog previously learned the stay command but is now getting up due to distraction. D. The dog is likely struggling with the reinforcement schedule and the trainer use a more frequent or continuous reinforcement schedule for the duration. Answer: D. The dog is likely struggling with the reinforcement schedule and the trainer should use a more frequent or continuous reinforcement schedule for the duration. Explanation: the dog's behavior of getting up after a longer duration suggests that the reinforcement schedule may not be sufficient to maintain the behavior over time. Initially, using a continuous reinforcement schedule can help the dog understand the behavior, and as the dog more consistent, the trainer can gradually transition to a variable or fixed interval schedule. The other options, learned helplessness, extinction, and spontaneous recovery, do not apply to this scenario. The key here is adjusting the reinforcement schedule to ensure the dog is motivated and understands what is expected. Question 8. Which of the following best describes a behavior chain, and why is it important in dog training? A behavior chain is a series of linked behaviors that a dog learns to perform consecutively, with each step in the chain being reinforced before moving to the next step. B. A behavior chain refers to a sequence of actions that a dog engages in naturally, such as hunting or scavenging. C. A behavior chain occurs when a dog performs multiple behaviors simultaneously in response to one command, allowing for efficient learning. D. A chain involves reinforcing a dog only when it completes the entire sequence of behaviors without any interruptions. Answer 8. A behavior chain is a series of linked behaviors that a dog learns to perform consecutively, with each step in the chain being reinforced before moving to the next step. Explanation. A behavior chain is a sequence of actions that a dog performs in a specific order, with each behavior being linked to the next one. It is crucial for training complex behaviors that involve multiple steps. Reinforcement is provided at each step to ensure the dog understands the sequence and performs the behaviors correctly. This method is effective in teaching tasks such as retrieving, agility sequences, or service dog tasks. Reinforcing the dog at each step of the chain ensures that the entire sequence becomes ingrained and reliable. The other options do not accurately describe the process of behavior chaining in training. Question 9. During a training session, a dog is repeatedly distracted by a squirrel outside the training area, which is causing him to break his focus and not respond to commands. What strategy should the trainer use to address the dog's distractions? A. Increase the level of distraction by introducing more squirrels or other animals to test the dog's focus. B. Change the training environment to a quieter location to reduce external distractions and focus on basic commands. C. Begin using aversive stimuli such as a loud noise or spray bottle to correct the dog when distracted by the squirrel. D. Encourage the dog to chase the squirrel as a reward for listening to commands. Help channel the dog's energy in positive direction. Answer B. Change the training environment to a quieter location to reduce external distractions and focus on basic commands. Explanation. When a dog is distracted by external stimuli, such as the presence of a squirrel, it's important to start training in a less distracting environment where the dog can focus on the task at hand. By reducing distractions, the dog can successfully learn and respond to commands before gradually increasing difficulty of the environment. Increasing distractions. Option A could overwhelm the dog, while aversive stimuli, option C, may cause fear or anxiety, which could hinder learning. Encouraging the dog to chase the squirrel, option D, would reward undesirable behavior and is not an effective training method. Question 10. You are working with a dog that has a tendency to jump on people as a form of greeting. The dog has learned to associate jumping with receiving attention, such as petting or verbal praise. The owner has attempted to correct this behavior by pushing the dog away or saying no, but the jumping continues. What is the most effective way to address this issue? A. Consistently ignore the dog when it jumps and only offer attention when all four paws are on the ground. B. Use collar correction every time the dog jumps to ensure it associates the behavior with an immediate consequence. C. Reward the dog with treats every time it jumps, but use firm sit command immediately afterward. D. Continue to push the dog away when it jumps, ensuring it understands the behavior is not acceptable. Answer. A. Consistently ignore the dog when it jumps and only offer attention when all four paws are on the ground. Explanation. Jumping is often reinforced when the dog gets attention, whether positive or negative. The most effective way to stop this behavior is to ignore the dog completely when it jumps, withholding attention until the dog has all four paws on the ground. This will teach the dog that jumping does not lead to any rewards. Pushing the dog or saying no, options B and D, could still reinforce the behavior inadvertently by providing attention, while rewarding jumping, option C, would be counterproductive. Question 11. A dog has developed a tendency to bark excessively whenever the owner leaves the house. This behavior appears to be caused by separation anxiety. What is the best course of action to address this behavior? A. Leave the dog alone for increasingly longer periods of time each day to teach it to tolerate being alone. B. Use a calming collar or medication to reduce the dog's anxiety before attempting behavioral modification techniques. C. Gradually desensitize the dog to being alone by starting with very short separations, then rewarding calm behavior. D. Punish the dog when it barks by using an aversive sound or physical reprimand. Answer. C. Gradually desensitize the dog to being alone by starting with very short separations, then rewarding calm behavior. Explanation. Separation anxiety requires a careful and gradual approach to help the dog become more comfortable with being alone. Desensitizing the dog by starting with short periods of separation and slowly increasing the duration while rewarding calm behavior is the most effective method. Leaving the dog alone. Longer periods, option A, could exacerbate anxiety, while using calming collars or medications, option B, may be helpful in some cases but should be combined with behavioral modification. Punishment, option D, is counterproductive and likely to increase anxiety. Question 12. During training, you are teaching a dog to walk on a loose leash. However, the dog continues to pull despite the trainer's attempts to stop walking when the dog pulls. Which technique will most effectively help the dog learn to walk without pulling? A. Use choke collar to create quick aversive consequence when the dog pulls on the leash. B. Ignore the pulling and continue walking until the dog gets tired, at which point it will stop pulling. C. Change direction immediately when the dog pulls on the leash, rewarding the dog for walking in the correct position. D. Use gentle leader or harness to restrict the dog's ability to pull, reducing the pulling behavior over time. Answer. C. Change direction immediately when the dog pulls on the leash, rewarding the dog for walking in the correct position. Explanation. The most effective way to teach a dog not to pull is to make pulling ineffective. Changing direction immediately when the dog pulls creates the consequence that teaches the dog that pulling leads to no progress. Rewarding the dog when it walks in the correct position reinforces the desired behavior. Using a choke collar, A, or ignoring the pulling, option B, may cause the dog to become more frustrated or uncomfortable, while a gentle leader or harness, option D, can be effective but should be used in combination with positive reinforcement and training. Question 13. You are training a dog to perform a trick such as rolling over. The dog performs the behavior inconsistently and you are unsure why. Which of the following factors could most likely be affecting the dog's performance? A. The dog has not yet developed the physical strength to complete the trick and needs more time to build muscle. B. The dog is not clear on what is expected and is receiving inconsistent cues from the trainer. C. The dog is bored with the trick and no longer finds it rewarding, necessitating a change of activity. D. The dog is too distracted by external stimuli and cannot focus on the task, making it difficult to learn the trick. Answer. B. The dog is not clear on what is expected and is receiving inconsistent cues from the trainer. Explanation. Inconsistent cues or unclear expectations can confuse a dog and lead to inconsistent performance. It's important for the trainer to provide clear, consistent commands and reinforcement for the desired behavior. Lack of physical strength, option A, is unlikely unless the trick is physically demanding, and boredom, option C, is more likely to after extensive repetition, not early in training. Distractions, option D, can affect learning, but if the dog is not clear on what is expected, the main issue is the lack of clarity in the cues. Question 14. A dog is displaying fear-based aggression towards other dogs at the dog park. The owner reports that the dog has never been socialized properly and becomes anxious around unfamiliar dogs. What is the best approach to address this behavior? A. Allow the dog to interact freely with other dogs to help it learn to feel comfortable. B. Use corrective measures such as leash jerks or harsh vocal reprimands whenever the dog shows aggression. C. Gradually expose the dog to well-mannered, calm dogs in a controlled environment, rewarding calm behavior. D. Avoid taking the dog to the dog park until the behavior stops, as exposure to other dogs is likely to make the aggression worse. Answer. C. Gradually expose the dog to well-mannered, calm dogs in a controlled environment, rewarding calm behavior. Explanation. Fear-based aggression can be addressed by gradually exposing the dog to other dogs in a controlled and calm setting. Positive reinforcement should be used to reward calm behavior, helping the dog build confidence. Allowing free interactions, option A, or using harsh corrections, option B, could worsen the dog's aggression. Avoiding the dog park, option D, entirely may prevent progress, as the dog needs exposure in order to improve its social skills. Question 15. You are working with a dog who has a habit of digging in the yard whenever the owner is absent. The dog has been provided with plenty of exercise and attention, yet the digging persists. What might be the most likely cause of the behavior, and how should it be addressed? A. The dog is likely bored and understimulated, so providing more physical and mental enrichment should solve the problem. B. The dog is digging because of fear and anxiety, and the behavior can be corrected by reprimanding the dog when it starts digging C. The dog is likely experiencing a medical issue and a veterinary examination is required to rule out health problems before addressing the digging. D. The dog is digging as a way of seeking attention, and the behavior should be addressed by ignoring the digging and providing attention at other times. Answer A. The dog is likely bored and understimulated, so providing more physical and mental enrichment should solve the problem. Explanation. While anxiety can sometimes cause digging, in this case the dog's behavior is most likely driven by boredom or insufficient stimulation. Increasing exercise, providing enrichment activities such as puzzle toys or digging areas, and offering more mental and physical stimulation should help reduce the behavior. Reprimanding the dog, option B, will not address the root cause and may increase anxiety. Veterinary examination, option C, may be useful if health issues are suspected, but in most cases, the behavior is related to boredom. Ignoring the digging, option D, can also be effective, but it may require additional enrichment to fully resolve the behavior. Question 16. A dog begins to bark and lunge at other dogs while on leash during walks. The owner is unsure how to stop this behavior. What is the most likely reason for the dog's behavior and what should be done to address it? A. The dog is likely displaying fear or frustration and needs to be desensitized to the presence of other dogs through gradual exposure and positive reinforcement. B. The dog is being overly dominant and needs to be corrected with firm aversive collar to reduce the lunging behavior. C. The dog is simply misbehaving and should be punished with an immediate verbal reprimand when it lunges at other dogs. D. The dog should be avoided from encountering dogs during walks to prevent reinforcing this unwanted behavior. Answer A. The dog is likely displaying fear or frustration and needs to be desensitized to the presence of other dogs through gradual exposure and positive reinforcement. Explanation. Leash reactivity, such as barking and lunging, often occurs due to fear or frustration. The best approach is to desensitize the dog to the presence of other dogs through controlled exposures and positive reinforcement for calm behavior. Punishment, options B and C, increase fear and aggression, making the problem worse. Avoiding other dogs, option D, might temporarily reduce the behavior but will not address the underlying cause, which can persist once the avoidance is no longer possible. Question 17. You are training a dog to perform a sit command in various environments, including noisy and distracting settings. The dog performs well in quiet environments but struggles with distractions. What is the most effective approach to generalize the behavior to new settings? A. Gradually increase the level of distractions in training sessions, rewarding the dog for maintaining the sit command despite the distractions. B. Only practice the sit command in the presence of distractions after the dog has mastered it in a quiet setting. C. Punish the dog with a firm verbal reprimand when it fails to sit in a distracting environment. D. Avoid training in noisy or distracting environments until the dog has consistently performed behavior in a quiet setting. Answer A. Gradually increase the level of distractions in training sessions, rewarding the dog for maintaining the sit command despite the distractions. Explanation. The most effective way to generalize a behavior like sit to various environments is to gradually introduce distractions during training. This helps the dog learn to maintain the behavior even in more challenging situations. Slowly increasing the level of distraction ensures the dog can confidence and success. Punishing the dog, option C, is counterproductive and could cause confusion, while avoiding distractions, option D, would prevent the dog from learning how to perform the behavior in real-world settings. Question 18. You are training a dog to stop chasing after cars during walks. The dog has been taught basic commands like sit and stay, but still shows a strong desire to chase cars whenever they pass. What is the best approach to stop the dog from chasing cars? A. Use a leash correction to immediately stop the dog whenever it starts to chase a car. B. Reinforce the sit command each time a car approaches to redirect the dog's focus. C. Allow the dog to chase cars on long leash to satisfy its desire and gradually reduce the leash length. D. Avoid taking the dog on walks where cars are present to prevent the behavior from occurring. Answer. B. Reinforce the sit command each time a car approaches to redirect the dog's focus. Explanation. The most effective approach is to redirect the dog's focus and reinforce the behavior you want to see. In this case, having the dog perform the sit command when car approaches teaches the dog to stay calm and not chase. Leash corrections, option A, can be harsh and may not address the underlying excitement. Allowing the dog to chase, option C, can reinforce the chasing behavior, and avoidance, option D, prevents the dog from learning to cope with the situation. Question 19. A dog that has been previously well behaved has started exhibiting aggressive behavior such as growling and snapping when its food bowl is approached. What is the most likely cause of this behavior and how should it be addressed? A. The dog is displaying resource guarding and should be trained to tolerate the approach of people near its food bowl through gradual desensitization. B. The dog is simply being dominant and needs to be corrected with a firm reprimand whenever it shows aggression. C. The dog should be left alone during meals to prevent the aggressive behavior from occurring. D. The dog is fearful of being deprived of food and should be given more food to reduce anxiety. Aggression. Answer A. The dog is displaying resource guarding and should be trained to tolerate the approach of people near its food bowl through gradual desensitization. Explanation. Resource guarding is a common behavior in which dogs show aggression when they feel threatened by the approach of people or other animals near their food, toys, or other valued items. The best approach is to desensitize the dog to the presence of people near its food by gradually approaching them and rewarding the dog for calm behavior. Punishing the dog, option B, is not effective and may increase aggression. Leaving the dog alone, option C, does not address the underlying issue, and overfeeding, option D, can exacerbate the behavior. Question 20. A dog is jumping up on furniture despite being asked to stay off. The owner has attempted to stop the behavior by saying no, but the dog continues to jump. What is the most effective method to stop the dog from jumping on furniture? A. Use a click to reward the dog for staying off the furniture and give treats when it remains on the floor. B. Physically push the dog off the furniture every time it jumps up, ensuring the dog understands it is not allowed. C. Ignore the jumping behavior and only give attention when the dog is calm and seated on the floor. D. Use a leash and collar to correct the dog each time it attempts to jump on the furniture. Answer A. Use a clicker to reward the dog for staying off the furniture and give treats when it remains on the floor. Explanation. Positive reinforcement is the most effective method for teaching a dog to stay off furniture. Rewarding the dog for staying on the floor and using a clicker to mark the desired behavior helps the dog learn that remaining on the floor is rewarding. Physically pushing the dog off, option B, may confuse or frustrate the dog. Ignoring the behavior, option C, may not teach the dog what is expected. Using a leash and collar, option D, can be an additional training tool but should not be the primary method. Question 21. A dog barks at the doorbell whenever it rings and the owner wants to stop this behavior. What is the most effective way to address this issue? A. Use a verbal reprimand every time the dog barks when the doorbell rings. B. Ignore the barking and wait for the dog to stop on its own before opening the door. C. Teach the dog an alternative behavior, such as sitting quietly when the doorbell rings and reward calm behavior. D. Close the door every time the dog barks, so it learns the barking results in being excluded from the room. Answer C. Teach the dog an alternative behavior, such as sitting quietly when the doorbell rings and reward calm behavior. Explanation. The best way to address doorbell barking is to teach the dog an alternative behavior. For example, having the dog sit quietly when the doorbell rings and rewarding calm behavior helps the dog learn what is expected. Verbal reprimands, option A, can cause confusion or anxiety, and ignoring the barking, option, does not teach the dog what to do instead. Closing the door, option D, might inadvertently reinforce the barking by making the dog associate barking with exclusion. Question 22. A dog has been showing signs of separation anxiety, such as destructive chewing and excessive barking whenever its owner leaves the house. What is the most effective way to address this behavior? A. Leave the dog alone for longer and longer periods each day to teach it that being alone is not harmful. B. Use a calming collar or medication to reduce anxiety and begin gradual desensitization to being left alone. C. Punish the dog for destructive behavior when the owner returns home to discourage the behavior. D. Avoid leaving the dog alone at all, ensuring it never experiences separation. Answer B. Use a calming collar or medication to reduce anxiety and begin gradual desensitization to being left alone. Explanation. Separation anxiety can often be alleviated through a combination of anxiety-reducing measures such as calming collars or medication and behavioral modifications such as gradually desensitizing the dog to being left alone. Punishing the dog, option C, for destructive behavior can increase anxiety, worsen the problem, while avoiding leaving the dog alone, option D, prevents the dog from learning to cope. Gradual desensitization is key to addressing the underlying anxiety. Question 23. A dog is excessively digging in the yard, especially when left unsupervised. The owner has tried providing toys and exercise, but the behavior persists. What is the most likely cause of the behavior and how should it be addressed? A. The dog is bored and needs more mental stimulation and exercise to stop the digging behavior. B. The dog is experiencing separation anxiety and digs when left alone as her coping mechanism. C. The dog is digging due to a medical issue and should be examined by a veterinarian to rule out health problems. D. The dog is simply misbehaving and should be reprimanded immediately when caught digging. Answer: B. The dog is experiencing separation anxiety and digs when left alone as a coping mechanism. Explanation: digging is often a symptom of separation anxiety where the dog is trying to cope with being left alone. To address this, the owner should work on reducing the dog's anxiety through desensitization and providing more structured training. Overexercising the dog, option A, and medical examinations, option C, can be helpful but may not address the root cause, while reprimanding the dog, option D, does not address the anxiety causing the behavior. Question 24. A dog tends to pull on the leash while walking, causing the owner to feel frustrated. The dog is excited and pulls towards anything that catches its attention. What is the best way to teach the dog to stop pulling on the leash? A. Use a prong collar to apply an immediate correction every time the dog pulls. B. Reward the dog with treats when it walks calmly beside the owner and use a loose leash as a marker for success. C. Allow the dog to pull freely on the leash to tire it out and it will eventually learn not to pull. D. Correct the dog with a firm verbal reprimand when it pulls on the leash, ensuring the dog understands the behavior is unacceptable. Answer: B. Reward the dog with treats when it walks calmly beside the owner and use a loose leash as a marker for success. Explanation: the most effective way to stop a dog from pulling on the leash is through positive reinforcement. Rewarding the dog for walking calmly beside the owner and using a loose leash as a sign of success helps the dog learn that staying next to the owner results in positive outcomes. A prong collar, option A, can be painful and create fear-based reactions. Allowing the dog to pull, option C, reinforces the undesired behavior, and reprimanding the dog, option D, may lead to confusion. Question 25. A dog displays anxiety whenever it is left in a crate and often barks, whines, or tries to escape. What is the most effective approach to help the dog feel more comfortable in the crate? A. Gradually increase the amount of time the dog spends in the crate, rewarding calm behavior and providing enrichment. B. Leave the dog in the crate for long periods to get used to being confined and reduce anxiety. C. Use a shock collar to prevent barking and whining while in the crate. D. Let the dog roam freely around the house to avoid crate confinement and prevent further anxiety. Answer: A. Gradually increase the amount of time the dog spends in the crate, rewarding calm behavior and providing enrichment. Explanation: gradual desensitization is the best method to reduce crate anxiety. Increasing the amount of time the dog spends in the crate while rewarding calm behavior helps the dog learn that being in the crate is not a negative experience. Leaving the dog in the crate for long periods, option B, or using aversive, like shock collars, option C, can worsen anxiety. Allowing the dog to roam freely, option D, prevents the dog from learning to be comfortable in the crate, which is a valuable skill for situations when the dog needs to be confined. Question 26. A dog is frightened of fireworks and loud noises, showing signs of anxiety such as panting, trembling, and hiding. The owner wants to help the dog cope with this fear. What is the most effective approach to address the dog's fear of loud noises? A. Desensitize the dog to the sound of fireworks and loud noises by playing recordings of them at low volume and gradually increasing the volume over time. B. Allow the dog to continue hiding during fireworks as it will eventually get used to the noises. C. Use calming collar or medication to reduce the dog's anxiety and help it cope with the noises. D. Punish the dog whenever it displays fearful behavior to stop the anxiety from continuing. Answer: A. Desensitize the dog to the sound of fireworks and loud noises by playing recordings of them at a low volume and gradually increasing the volume over time. Explanation: desensitization is the most effective method for helping a dog overcome fear of loud noises. Gradually playing recordings of fireworks at a low volume and increasing the volume over time helps the dog become less sensitive to the noise. Allowing the dog to continue hiding, option B, will not reduce fear, and using calming collars or medications, option C, can be helpful but should be combined with behavioral training. Punishment, option D, will only exacerbate the dog's fear and anxiety. Question 27. The dog has developed a habit of barking excessively when left alone in the yard, especially when it sees people or other animals passing by. The owner wants to stop the barking behavior. What is the best approach to address this issue? A. Bring the dog inside every time it barks to show that barking results in being excluded from the yard. B. Use a bark collar to deliver an unpleasant stimulus each time the dog barks. C. Gradually desensitize the dog to the presence of people and animals by rewarding calm behavior when it notices them. D. Ignore the barking and only reward the dog when it stops barking on its own. Correct answer. C. Gradually desensitize the dog to the presence of people and animals by rewarding calm behavior when it notices them. Explanation: desensitization is the most effective approach. By gradually exposing the dog to people and animals from a distance and rewarding calm behavior, the dog can learn to remain quiet when seeing distractions. Bringing the dog inside, option A, and using a bark collar, option B, are punitive methods. Do not address the root cause. Ignoring the barking, option D, may not teach the dog the desired behavior. Question 28. A dog is consistently showing signs of fear and anxiety when meeting new people. It hides behind its owner, barks, or even growls in some cases. What is the best way to address this fear of strangers? A. Expose the dog to strangers in a controlled environment, rewarding calm behavior when it interacts with new people. B. Allow the dog to continue avoiding strangers until it feels comfortable. C. Correct the dog with a firm verbal reprimand when it acts fearful to discourage the behavior. D. Only socialize the dog with close friends and family to prevent fearful behavior in public. Answer A. Expose the dog to strangers in a controlled environment, rewarding calm behavior when it interacts with new people. Explanation: the best way to help the dog overcome fear of strangers is gradual exposure in a controlled environment paired with positive reinforcement. This allows the dog to build confidence. Allowing the dog to continue avoiding strangers, option B, reinforces fear, while verbal reprimands, option C, can increase anxiety. Limiting socialization, option D, prevents the dog from learning how to behave appropriately in a variety of situations. Question 29. A dog becomes overexcited during playtime, jumping up, running in circles, and barking excessively, which causes the owner to become overwhelmed. What is the best way to help the dog calm down and manage its excitement during play? A. Allow the dog to continue its energetic play until it tires itself out. B. Interrupt the play and encourage the dog to sit or lie down, rewarding calm behavior with treats and praise. C. Punish the dog for excessive excitement by scolding or using physical corrections. D. Play with the dog only when it is calm so it learns to associate playtime with relaxation. Answer B. Interrupt the play and encourage the dog to sit or lie down, rewarding calm behavior with treats and praise. Explanation: encouraging calm behavior during play and rewarding the dog for sitting or lying down helps it learn to manage its excitement. Allowing the dog to continue until it tires, option A, may reinforce the overstimulation. Punishing the dog, option C, can create negative associations with playtime. Playing only when the dog is calm, option D, doesn't address the behavior during play. Question 30. A dog consistently pulls toward other dogs when out on walks, showing signs of frustration and anxiety when it can't interact with them. How should the owner manage this behavior? A. Allow the dog to greet every dog it sees during walks to release its frustration. B. Use a head collar or harness to control the dog's pulling, rewarding calm behavior when the dog focuses on walking. C. Avoid walking in areas where there are other dogs to prevent the pulling behavior from occurring. D. Correct the dog every time it pulls towards another dog with a firm leash tug or verbal reprimand. Answer B. Use a head collar or harness to control the dog's pulling, rewarding calm behavior when the dog focuses on walking. Explanation: using a head collar or harness helps manage the dog's pulling without causing discomfort. By rewarding calm behavior, the dog learns to focus on walking calmly rather than reacting to other dogs. Allowing the dog to greet every dog, option A, reinforces the pulling behavior, avoiding areas with other dogs. C doesn't address the behavior, and corrections, option D, may not be effective in reducing the dog's anxiety.